Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and today we're talking about Deep Rock Galactic, the board game, specifically the one currently on Kickstarter, the adaptation of the video game, going over everything that's being offered here, what the game is, the pledge levels, all that stuff, should you back it, should you not, and starting off with what it is at a very high level. Deep Rock Galactic is effectively a dungeon crawling game. It's going to be adapted from the video game, the very popular video game, which is a little bit of a FPS slash team shooter slash whatever, as you run around a procedurally generated video game in which you're going to be collecting crystals, you're going to be shooting the monsters, defeating people, finding various stuff, all that, and that is being very strongly adapted over to the video game. They're not really going to have an FPS. Board games don't really have FPSs, or at least nothing that really simulates an FPS feel, a first-person shooter, but rather the video game is going to be, the board game's version of Deep Rock Galactic is going to be giving you a dungeon crawl as you wander around trying to, again, collect crystals, collect all the treasure in the whatever, the caverns, the deep rock, the treasure in the deep rock, as you deal with a bunch of monsters that are going to be coming your way through a whole bunch of events that are popping up, attacking you, swiping you, doing all kinds of monstery stuff as you go through the dungeon crawling madness. And you're going to have your asymmetric characters similar to the video game, lots of general similarities there. You can go ahead and watch their main video, by the way, very entertaining video as far as just getting a good, well, entertainment factor from the video. If you want to figure out how to play and all that, Mark Street over the Dice Tower has a great how to play. But overall, it's a dungeon crawler. It's going to have a bunch of scenarios. You're going to be diving into each individual scenario, figuring things out, gathering your gear, leveling up your characters, picking various. You're going to have, each character's going to have the things that define them, their weapons, their gear, their zip line, their machine guns, their whatever is, and then you're also going to have other weapons you're going to be gathering. The game does have an ammunition system in the sense that when you shoot, you're utilizing your ammo, although you always could, in a pinch, use your pickaxe to go ahead and take down whatever monster shows up your way, as the monsters go through their own little event system of gathering new monsters, having things pop up near you, around you, track you down, fight the nearest miner, doing all of that across a variety of different scenarios, different campaigns, different scenarios and different objectives in each scenario. And that is basically what's going on in Deep Rock Galactic. It's a dungeon crawler, similar to things you've seen before, a little different in the actual implementation, very different in terms of the general theme and what they're going for here. Overall, it looks very entertaining. I have not played the game, I can't comment on the gameplay itself, but it looks very entertaining, and the miniatures and the production value, even of just the prototype, look amazing. And I say that for better and for worse, meaning as we go through the Kickstarter page, there's really only two things available. They have like the Mark Street's, overview of the game. There's also the Hungry Gamer, you can check out his video, and then they have like a little bit of an unboxing of the factory prototype and all of that, because they're very much showing you the miniatures, and I get why. It all looks amazing. It looks very cool, chunky miniatures, great sculpts. All in all, I am very pulled in by the visual appeal aspect of the game, and I'm generally pulled in by dungeon crawlers and rolling a bunch of dice and going and attacking things, and the dice have their own symbol system on there, makes it very easy, very clear, all of that. But the question is, should you get it, should you not? And starting off with the pledge levels. Pledge level wise, this game is not cheap, and it's worth noting before we go further, probably should have said this at the beginning, but if you're seeing this video, you have, well, depending on when you're seeing this video, you have a handful of hours left if you want to go ahead and get that free metal coin for the first 24 hours. As usual, if you're on the fence, you can go ahead and back, set a little reminder for 15 days from now, 18 days from now, wherever, and you can go ahead and cancel your pledge absolutely easily, no problem whatsoever. Just set a little reminder system in place if you're on the fence at all, because that free metal coin, while not a big deal at all if you are someone who wants it, and if you're getting it anyway, you may as well get your hands on that. That is one of only 2 Kickstarter exclusives that they have officially confirmed as of now, and seemingly based on the comment section in the Kickstarter, unless they reveal things in stretch goals or optional buys, there's only 2 current Kickstarter exclusives, and neither of them are a particularly big deal, at least from a gameplay standpoint. They're both nice aesthetic things, but not really, must have, so to speak, although I guess it's a matter of opinion, because the other one is definitely a little cooler than the metal coin. But either way, talking about the pledge levels, what do we have over here? Starting off the bat, we have Pledge Manager Access, then we have the Standard Edition of the game coming in at around $75 for the Standard Edition of the game. That will give you the core game, which is going to give you miniatures for the primary characters, the team characters, but it's going to give you standees for all the monsters. If you want to keep your cost down, this will give you, the cheapest version of the game coming in at roughly $75. You're still going to be paying shipping. Depending on where you are, you still be paying VAT as well, but it's going to be the cheapest version of the game. Although, again, cheap is relative. $75 $50 plus shipping plus potentially VAT is still not cheap, and you're getting a mostly standee version of the game. Next up from there, at around $125, a roughly $50 bump, you're going to get the 27 miniatures, or 33 Glyphid miniatures that are added to the game, so a whole bunch of extra miniatures to your game, and they all look solid. Again, I recommend checking out both the campaign video as well as Mark Street's Dice Tower video. They look very, very cool. If you like that kind of bling, if you like that kind of table presence, it's a $50 bump in the price tag, but it is giving you, I mean, $50 for 33 miniatures with the sizing of the miniatures that they are is not at all unreasonable. It's just a question of whether it's worth it to you. Now, it's worth noting before you go further, all of these come with stretch goals, although some of the different tiers do come with different stretch goals attached. Although none of those stretch goals have been marked as exclusive, so again, see my earlier comment there. At $175, another $50 bump, we get the all-in pledge, and it's worth noting this is mostly going to be a bunch of extras, not a lot of gameplay added in. We again have the 33 miniatures, we have the Kickstarter exclusive mug, that's going to be a great little extra at 25mm, but also factor in the 25mm is roughly an inch, so it's going to be about yay high, so it'll give you a nice little Kickstarter exclusive mug event marker, but it depends how much you care. Although it's also worth noting, while this pledge level is adding $50, if you actually value all the things that are going into the pledge level, it is a much better price than buying them all individually. You're basically paying an extra $50 more compared to the last tier, but you're getting well over $50 worth of stuff if you're someone who would have bought them anyway, and that is of course the catch. You may or may not have been someone who wanted those things. You're going to get the Goo from Above expansion, which is, for me, is the gameplay aspect. That's the main thing I'm looking at. That's going to be a $25 value if I recall correctly. You're going to have the Neophene game mat over here. You're going to have the art prints. You're going to have the mouse pad. You're going to have the sleeves, the STL files, and that's what you're getting for this $50 additional add-on. For me, personally speaking, I don't really use mats. I always like them. I don't use them. The gameplay Goo from Above expansion, I definitely want those. Not a lot of extra miniatures, but some extra content. I don't mind that extra variability. The art prints, I'm not going to do anything with. The mouse pad is not the worst. I could use that, but I'm not sure if I'm willing to pay for it that much. And then sleeves, my general recommendation is always utilizing Sleeve Kings and not paying extra premiums. And if you are someone who wants to 3D print things, the STL files being bundled here is an interesting choice, because if you are looking to conserve your money, if you're looking to save money, you could buy the base pledge and then buy the STL files and 3D print your own miniatures. But when you do so in the all-in, while you are getting a better price on everything else had you bought it individually, you also are likely someone who didn't need the STL files. So I guess maybe go in on the all-in for yourself, and your friend who's getting the base pledge, they can have your STL files. I don't know the exact details. I'm just going through the way this all works, and you can make your own decision accordingly. That's going to be the primary pledge levels on the table. So again, if you're looking at a general all-in with a whole lot of extras, you're looking at a base pledge at around $75 that will give you the least amount of stuff, but also at the lowest price. And then you have the pledge level that's likely the most common. I haven't even looked, but I'm assuming the most common pledge level is the deluxe. We have 1,100 backers at deluxe, and we have 6,406 at the collector's edition. So never mind what I said. Apparently a whole lot of people want that beer mug. I'm projecting my own biases of what I would get onto that, although to be fair, I have technically backed the collector's edition as my placeholder pledge, and I fully plan on switching. So I wonder how many other people are in that camp. Alternatively, how many people want the mouse pad, the digital prints, the STL files, the beer mug, all of those things. There's enough reason to go ahead and pay attention to that if you are someone who wants, well, any of the stuff. In any case, moving on from there, and then there's other pledge levels as well as extra deluxe editions, multiple collector's editions, in case you want to team up with a bunch of people and get your hands on that. And that is everything that's going on there, which means it's a good time to go ahead and dive into the stretch goals. Although, let's go ahead and just take a look at the components to have a little bit more of a detailed look at everything you're getting in this campaign. You're going to have these 4 primary miniatures, the 4 characters in the game. I don't know the video game that well. I don't believe there are more than 4 characters, which means it's unlikely, and I could be wrong, I could be very wrong here. Cue all the comments from the video game people watching this thing who are like, how could you put out a video on the board game if you don't even know the video game? I do. Whenever I cover a board game, video game crossover, I always get 1 or 2 comments from what is clearly a video game crowd. So hi, welcome aboard. Please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and all that stuff, and leave your harsh, mean comments on every single one of my videos, because I could use the engagement. It's good for the algorithm. In any case, moving on to these 4 miniatures, we have the Scout, we have the Driller, we have the Gunner, and we have the Engineer, all bringing a form of asymmetric gameplay to the table as far as what they do. We're going to have zip lines, we're going to have guns, we're going to have little robot sentries, things like that. They all bring their own unique spin to the table. We have the 33 Glyphid minis. They do cover. That's only in the Deluxe and Collector's Pledge. The base pledge is getting just the standees and not the miniatures. Then we have a whole bunch of Spitballers, the Oppressor, the Slashers, going through what these miniatures are and their table presence. Again, recommendation to watch watch the main campaign video and the Mark Street Dice Tower video to get a feel for how these things all look, what the table presence is like, all of that. We have the mission book, the rule book, we have the dice, we have the large cavern segments that are going to lay down on your board and or your neoprene mat or on just your table. You have the 102 cards. You're going to have the 113 tokens, the 45 minerals and gold. Those are all the tokens that the cards are going to, there's a bunch of card play in the game as far as just the different things you can be playing to, different equipment you can have, different abilities you can be playing to help your team out, stuff like that. You're going to have the 45 minerals and gold. These are going to be the extras you're going to be gathering around the board, both as mission objectives as well as to power things up or give you various, either resources or whatnot. You have the miniature scale over here, and then you have the factory sample video, the Q&A video, which is not yet present, but I assume is coming soon, and that's what you have as far as campaign components, which brings us to the stretch goal stuff that we have so far. Game mechanics briefly covered over here. You're going to be running around the board, explore alien caves, take on the alien menace, mining and upgrading, use your dwarf abilities, fight your way through, all of that kind of stuff that you'd expect in a dungeon crawling experience. From the stretch goals, we have the tokens are upgraded to the stalagmites in the deluxe and collector's pledge. So those little tokens will be upgraded to 3D presence on the board. Those are where you're going to have your little crystals around these little 3D stalagmites. We're going to have 2 extra missions in the mission book. We're going to have some grunts unlocked. We're going to have the extra event cards. You're going to have the mini of Molly for storing gold and minerals. Again, check out that Mark Street Dice Tower video. You'll see it on the table. Fairly big miniature that's on the table, just holding onto all the stuff you're collecting. We have a plastic insert. All this stuff has been unlocked, by the way, so far. We have the double layer player boards. It's always a nice upgrade. I'm a huge fan of double layer player boards. We have new secret cave segments. We have new secondary weapon cards. In general, you're going to have your primary weapon that's specific to your class, and then every round every gameplay, you're also going to be drawing another weapon that's going to be something else you utilize to complement your abilities, giving a different ammo system, different ammo to collect, all of that. We have the gold nuggets are upgraded from their, instead of yellow plastic crystals, they're going to be gold whatever. We're going to have miniature of Bosco instead of a token. We have the extra throwables. You're going to have these throwables that you can get various grenades or things like that you can, throw. We have the miniature sentry gun, which is not yet unlocked, but definitely will be. And then we have a social stretch goal of the Glyphid Warden miniature. Now, when I say not yet unlocked, but definitely should be, it's worth noting this campaign is currently at day 1, not even a full, less than 12 hours since this campaign started. We're at $1,340,000 raised, which means this looks like it's likely trending towards $5+ million, although we'll see. Things can definitely slow down. I just don't know for sure. Here's what we do know. What we do know is Borderlands, the most recent video game to Kickstarter, video game to board game adaptation, they made $400,000, just shy of $500,000 on day 1. On their very first day, that's how much they made. And across 22 days, that trended up to just shy of $2 million, roughly 4 times what they made on day 1. Now, Deep Rock Galactic, with a less appealing 24-hour conversion. Borderlands had a miniature. Deep Rock Galactic has a coin token. With a less appealing day 1 conversion, they're already at 1.3 million. Even with a 4 times multiplier across the next 20 days, you're looking at somewhere in the range of 5 million. Granted, that can definitely slow down. We'll see how much they pick up in terms of new backers. I think they had like 27,000 people following the campaign before the campaign launched, and 9,000 of those have turned into backers already. I would not be surprised if they cross 5 million. Alternatively, if we're being a little more conservative, somewhere in the $4 million range, but they're off to an amazing start, which also means lots more stretch goals, very strongly depending on how they've paced their campaign and how they've paced themselves across the course of the campaign. We talked about this recently with Marvel Zombies, the idea that depending on how things go, they may or may not have properly paced themselves. They may have tons of things up their sleeve. They may have to be pivoting. I don't know what their plans are in the background, and they're not coming in with the same level of Kickstarter history or knowledge as their first campaign ever, although obviously doing phenomenally well so far. As far as optional buys, these are many of the things you'll find in that deluxe collector's pledge, and the collector's pledge, not the deluxe pledge. These are all things you can buy separately. We have $25 for the goo from above. We have $25 for the playmat, which means if you're getting the playmat and the goo from above, you may as well go ahead and get the collectors all in, because you're going to be getting that beer mug, you're going to be getting the extras, the mouse pad, you're going to be getting the digital prints. I don't see here. I think they may be lower. We'll see. We have STLs for the dwarfs for $15. We have STLs for the Glyphids, $25, and STLs of all the miniatures for $40. Again, that's value to some people, not to others. I do find it interesting that the art prints are not included as an optional buy here, but I guess it is what it is. And as far as the exclusives, what's exclusive so far? And the short answer is not a lot, at least so far. Like I said already, we currently only have that beer mug over here. We have, oh, by the way, there's a thing. 1 second, sorry, there's a thing. I have to take a hard little pivot here. Back to how did the game play? Let me see where I am. We have take on the alien menace. Here we go. Fight your way through. This is just, a me thing. We have assist your fellow dwarves, call down resupplies for the team, and use your combined skills to make it back in time for a cold brew. And I was like, that is awesome. I would love to make it back in time for a cold brew. It's not make it back in time for a cold brew. It's make it back in time for a cold brew. I'm just a coffee person. I see cold brew and I just think coffee. So I read this and I was like, how nice of them to include coffee in their game. And then I remember that beer mug and I was like, that's not coffee in their game. That's a cold brew. In any case, that's a little bit of there. But yeah, as far as the exclusives, like I said already, you currently only have the coin and the Kickstarter exclusive beer mug event marker. Those are the only things that are currently exclusive to the campaign. Going through the comment section, the collaborators or creators have already responded and confirming that to be the case as of right now. Meaning this game is likely going to make its way to retail. Not a guarantee, not by a long shot, but with the current success you're seeing over here, I see no reason why they wouldn't want to try to have this in retail. Price point might be a factor, and pledge levels might be a factor, because at the end of the day, what they're offering over here, if they're offering it for $125 for that base pledge with all the miniatures included, or $75 for the ones with the standees, it's entirely possible that you may see one or the other in retail, but not necessarily both. In general, retail is always a tricky thing, especially if you don't have established retail partnerships, or especially if you don't have something you can look on for past campaigns as a clear direction of how things are going to go. There are no guarantees here. To be very clear, there are no guarantees here as far as what will happen as far as going to retail, whether it goes to retail at all, and if it does, in what form, at what things, what levels are cut back, are those double layer player boards still double layered? There's many conversations and sacrifices that are made in the transition to retail, and the fact that they've only said that there's 2 exclusives means you're basically strongly in the danger zone here either way. Right now, as far as should you back it, should you not, unfortunately, there's just not enough information, and I don't anticipate there being enough guarantees or information before the campaign ends. It's entirely possible they might confirm that more things are Kickstarter exclusive. We might start seeing tags show up. Oh, the AA player boards are exclusive. The miniature version of the full game is exclusive. We might see things like that, and that will push you more towards a reason to back it or not. But if they don't give you that information, you're going to be very strongly stuck in a kind of middle zone, because even though they're not tagging things as exclusive, it's very likely we won't see multiple versions of this game with all the stretch goals at a reasonable price point as in the secondhand market, which means, not second market, in the retail market, which means it's a risk. It falls squarely and strongly in the risk category. You can either end up backing this and then finding out that it's going to go to retail with the full miniatures version and be $27 cheaper. I just chose an arbitrary number there, but that's somewhere in the range of what you might be looking at. Alternatively, it might be entirely exclusive, and you'll find that this was the best time to get your hands on this one, because there's clearly a fan base out there that wants to get their hands on this game. In general, video game adaptations, or any adaptations, whenever you have an IP turned into a board game, there's always a bit of a tough spot, because you'll have the people who want to track down that copy in the secondhand market and will hold its value just fine, but you'll also have people who bought the game not really knowing what they're getting themselves into, who then flood their own copies on the game onto the secondhand market, which again puts us squarely in the risk zone. I don't love doing these videos where I don't tell you any sort of, hey, by the way, you clearly should or shouldn't back it. I like being a little bit more certain on these videos, but this is one where I think it's a risk either way. I would say if you desperately want to get your hands on Deep Rock Galactic, go ahead and back the Kickstarter. If you're someone who's kind of on the fence, if you're focusing less on the theme, or you want a game that's going to deliver more heavily on the mechanics, at the end of the day, this is another dungeon crawling game. Look at the mechanics, look through the Mark Street Dice Tower video, try to get a feel for what this is adding to your table. Is this doing anything amazing or innovative or not? Because speaking for myself, while the game looks cool, and I'm very interested in the game, I'm not yet confident that it's doing something or enough to stand out from a crowd. What's it doing past the theme that really makes it so incredible or amazing compared to any number of other dungeon crawlers you might have on your table? Again, I'm saying that as somebody who currently has a pledge and currently is very interested and is very pulled in by the art, by the production, by the miniatures, by the asymmetric characters, and yet despite being pulled in, I'm also not yet confident. So I would say if you're someone who's in that camp, you probably should not be backing this. You probably should wait. You always have the potential for retail, you have the potential for secondhand market showing up, and otherwise it might just join yourself as another shiny, blingy Kickstarter that looked incredibly amazing, but was just okay. Just another dungeon crawler, and you have too many of those already. Or you might be a huge Deep Rock Galactic fan. You might be someone who doesn't have dungeon crawlers, and this may be scratching that itch for you. So really, I think it depends very strongly, ultimately, at least based on what we know so far. I think it most strongly depends on who you are and how desperately you want this game, as far as whether you should get it. Which side of the risk factor do you want to err on? Do you want to err on the side that this is the best price and it may never show up in the way you want it and you'll have lost out? Or do you want to err on the side of this is going to show up in retail anyway and you overpaid on the Kickstarter by 25, 50 bucks, whatever it is? And that's basically where we are so far. Obviously, I do have my 2 back or not to back videos that go up every single Monday. If you do want to see and follow along for any new information that comes up, rest assured I will of course be talking about it in those videos. So if you're not subscribed to the channel and you want to see any updates as they talk about things that say, oh, you know, this version is Kickstarter exclusive, that's not going to be. These stretch goals are the typical mid-campaign pivoting and tagging that we sometimes see from creators, especially when there's a vocal audience asking for that information. Sometimes mid-campaigns we do see that, although be patient, it often takes a lot of time for people to come to these decisions, to adjust or to something they didn't necessarily plan for, and I'm not certain they planned for the success. They had one update day one, and that one update was kind of a, hey, thanks so much, it's for backers only. Why would you make this for backers only? And I mean, I saw it before because I am a backer when I'm not in incognito mode, but either way, it was basically a hi, thanks so much, and we're going to go ahead and rest now, and we'll see you all tomorrow, which just really tells me that I don't think they were fully prepared for where this ended up. I'm excited for them, happy for them. 5 creator. What do they create? What did they create? How did I miss this? How did I miss this before? We have the Fall of the Gods, you have Fall of the Gods Nomad, Fall of the Gods. They basically done a whole bunch of Fall of the Gods games, and that's basically what we have so far. And that is everything Deep Rock Galactic, at least from where we know so far. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope this was in some way helpful, despite the lackluster and inconclusive ending of everything. And until next time, have a good one.